Jesus said, "Man cannot live on bread alone, but from every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." You're listening to Daily Truth.
The last thing that I want to look at, I've been doing this and comparing and contrasting types and antitypes, or shadows and substance, foretelling and fulfillment throughout the book of Joshua compared to the gospel and the greater Joshua, who is Jesus. I want to do that very briefly in our text today as well. I've written the following: the fact that this circumcision was performed under Joshua rather than in the wilderness by Moses, it points forward to the new and better circumcision of the heart that comes by grace under the administration of Jesus and not the law under the administration of Moses. Even this was shadow pointing to substance, type pointing to antitype. Circumcision could have come in the practical sense, as we started out with verses 1 and 2 of our text today. In the practical sense, they had plenty of time when Israel was not under threat, with no enemies surrounding them, for 38 long years in the wilderness where they could have been circumcised. But one of the reasons that God waits until they enter the promised land is to say, we're renewing the covenant now with a new generation, now that the promise, the sign, the promise that correlates to the sign of circumcision has actually been fulfilled. Circumcision is the sign and the land is the promise. So now that this has been fulfilled and now that we have a new generation, I'm renewing the covenant oath with you. That's one reason. But in a larger gospel sense, in pointing from Joshua to Jesus, the other reason is because there was a greater circumcision that was coming. Not merely circumcision of the flesh, but circumcision of the heart. Not external, but internal. Not circumcision performed as a duty under the law given to Moses, but circumcision that comes by grace alone. That is circumcision of the heart that Romans speaks of. Circumcision that Colossians speaks of. By no human hands. A circumcision of the heart that comes as a sovereign move of the Spirit of God by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone. And this circumcision is not performed by Moses and the law, but by Jesus and the gospel. And so Joshua, as a type of Christ after the time of Moses, when the promises of God had reached their fulfillment, is now performing circumcision, pointing towards the true circumcision, which you and I in Christ have today.
Whoa, you're going to want to hear this. Our next two conferences are coming up quick. We've got first our fall conference. This is November 11th and 12th. That's a full day Saturday and a holdover for the Lord's Day, November 12th. Who's speaking at this conference? Well, we've got Jared Longshore and Chris Wiley and yours truly, Pastor Joel Webben. What's the title? The title is The Household and the War for the Cosmos. Now, I know you're thinking, wait a second, you can't use that title, Joel. That's the title for Chris Wiley's book. Well, I can use it because he's going to be there speaking and he gave me his permission. We're going to be talking about the household as the basic building block for pushing back the kingdom of darkness in this world. We're going to be talking about biblical patriarchy. We're going to be talking about marriage and parenting, how to keep your kids, how to shape and form them like straight arrows, like sharp arrows that do damage to the kingdom of darkness, training our children in the fear and admonition of the Lord. A full day on Saturday, November 11th, and then holding Jared Longshore over for the Lord's Day, November 12th, to preach at my church, Covenant Bible Church in Central Texas. You can register at the early bird rate, which will not last long, but you can register at the early bird rate today by going to rightresponseconference.com. Again, that's rightresponseconference.com. Now, our second conference is our spring conference. This is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. The title for this conference, Blueprints for Christendom 2.0. Blueprints for Christendom 2.0. We don't want to revert back to Christendom 1.0, although it would certainly be a whole lot better than the clown world that we're currently living in. But we recognize, despite the phenomenal features of a prior Christendom, there were certain bugs that we'd like to see worked out. So we're not going back. We are pushing forward to Christendom 2.0. We believe that the blueprints are 7 doctrines for ruling the world righteously. What are these 7 doctrines? Well, it's Reformed confessionalism, it's covenant theology, it's biblical patriarchy, it's presuppositionalism and Kuyperianism, and general equity theonomy and hopeful eschatology post-millennialism. Who's going to be teaching us on these doctrines? Voldemort, he who must not be named, Pastor Douglas Wilson himself. You also got Mr. Brighthearth, Mr. King's Hall, Mr. Haunted Cosmos, Pastor Brian Sauvé. And we also have Dr. Joseph Boot, and of course, yours truly, Pastor Joel Webbin. We'll be doing 7 primary lectures as well as 2 90-minute panels with all the speakers together, and we'll likely add a couple more speakers along the way. Again, that's March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's Blueprints for Christendom 2.0. We've got the early bird rate going right now, but it will run out quickly. So go to rightresponseconference.com, rightresponseconference.com to register today.